A woman pushes a cleaning cart down a hotel corridor in Tunis. 7 years, same route. Same mechanical rhythm of knock, pause, enter. But this morning, April 14th, 1988, she carries something different in her apron pocket. A key that does not belong to her. Cut in a workshop 3,000 miles away, stamped with markings she does not recognize. Designed to open a door that was never supposed to be locked in the first place. In 18 minutes, the man sleeping behind that door will be dead. 70 bullets will tear through his body while his wife watches, restrained but unharmed, forced to witness execution. She does not know she is not really a hotel maid anymore. She is an operational asset, a component in machinery she cannot see. The war she is about to start has been planned in conference rooms she will never see. Authorized by officials whose names she will never learn, executed by soldiers who will vanish before she finishes her shift. This is the story of the invisible weapon. Not a gun or a bomb, but an ordinary person transformed into the perfect delivery system for violence. It is about how intelligence services weaponize normalcy, how the most devastating operations hide behind the most forgettable faces, and how a woman who just wanted to pay her rent became the linchpin in an assassination that would reshape Palestinian resistance for decades. The Hotel Africa opened in 1981 as Tunis's finest luxury accommodation. Glass facade, European management, marble lobbies. It attracted diplomats, businessmen, and guests. Promotional materials did not mention senior PLO operatives. After Israeli forces drove them from Beirut in 1982, Yasser Arafat's lieutenants scattered across Tunis, conducting revolution from hotels far from actual battlefields. For Israel, this created an opportunity. Hotels have vulnerabilities that fortified compounds do not. Fatima Benali worked the 4th floor since the hotel opened. She was 43, widowed, raising 2 daughters on wages that barely covered the rent. Quiet, reliable, utterly unremarkable, exactly what hotel management wanted. 3 years earlier, someone noticed her for those exact qualities. A man approached after her shift. He had a European accent and an expensive suit. He said he worked for a security consulting firm. They needed staff observations about workplace procedures. Nothing sensitive, just shift schedules, key protocols, and guest patterns. The money was staggering. It was nearly her full monthly salary for information that seemed meaningless. She agreed because her daughters needed school supplies and because the information seemed harmless. For 3 years, different contacts appeared at irregular intervals, in coffee shops and on park benches. There were questions and answers and envelopes of cash. She never asked what they did with her observations. They never explained. What Fatima could not see was machinery turning behind her contributions. Every observation flowed into Tel Aviv files. Her notes identified which PLO commanders were in Tunis. Security patrol details revealed when surveillance teams could position undetected. Access protocols mapped exploitable vulnerabilities. The Hotel Africa was not just accommodation, it was infrastructure. Fatima had been providing the blueprints. Recently, questions narrowed to Suite 412. Layout details, occupancy patterns, movements. She reported without understanding that her answers fed targeting data into an operation already in motion. An envelope appeared in her locker on April 14th. It contained simple instructions and a key that looked wrong. Add room 412 to her schedule. Enter at exactly 6:45. Spend 7 minutes inside. Leave the door slightly ajar. She had 3 years of following instructions without consequence. There was no reason to question it now. The man registered as Mahmoud Abbas was actually Khalil al-Wazir, Abu Jihad, Arafat's deputy, and the chief military strategist of the PLO. For 23 years, he had planned attacks, coordinated weapons shipments, and directed campaigns of violence that Israel categorized as terrorism and Palestinians celebrated as resistance. The label depended on which side of the occupation you inhabited. But regardless of terminology, he had become one of Israel's most wanted men. He checked in on April 11th, following patterns Mossad had documented for months. He preferred this hotel for sensitive meetings because its commercial character provided cover that explicitly Palestinian locations could not offer. It had European management and an international clientele. He believed this made Israeli penetration less likely. The visible security looked adequate. 2 bodyguards rotated shifts. Hotel security conducted regular patrols. Wrong. The lock on his door had been replaced 3 months earlier by technicians whose maintenance credentials were impeccable forgeries. The new lock accepted hotel master keys and something else, a key cut in Tel Aviv designed to grant access without triggering alarms that would alert security or the target. Fatima had been reporting his movements for weeks without understanding why anyone cared about this particular guest. Elevator maintenance crews mapped escape routes. A telephone repairman installed surveillance that could detect breathing patterns through walls. Every service worker who entered that suite was part of an intelligence operation disguised as routine hotel business. By April 13th, when Abu Jihad worked late reviewing operational plans, he was surrounded by intelligence he could not see. The schedule was known. Security arrangements were documented. The room layout was mapped down to furniture placement. Vulnerability had been constructed piece by piece over months, disguised as operations that aroused no suspicion. He went to bed after midnight, exhausted from telephone calls with subordinates across the region. Bodyguards settled into corridor rotation. Security made scheduled patrols. Everything appeared normal because normal was exactly what the operation required. The perfect trap looks like safety. 30 miles offshore, a commercial-looking ship held position. Its communications were linked to Tel Aviv, and teams were positioned across Tunis. They had entered separately over weeks using tourist visas. No weapons came through customs. Weapons were cached in safe houses purchased through untraceable shell companies. 30 Sayeret Matkal commandos, Israel's elite. Instruments refined through years of training in close-quarters combat and the psychological conditioning required to assassinate without hesitation. Pre-dawn assembly, suppressed weapons, night vision, breaching charges, communications gear. These were tested repeatedly in mock-ups built from intelligence Fatima provided. Brutal simplicity. Breach the hotel, reach the 4th floor, neutralize the bodyguards, enter room 412, execute the target, extract before there was a response. 20 minutes maximum. 1:30 in the morning. Rubber boats launched, hitting beaches where security was minimal. Vehicles waited at rally points. Teams moved through darkened streets with rehearsed confidence. At 2:15 in the morning, positions were taken around Hotel Africa. Surveillance confirmed. The bodyguard schedule matched predictions. Security was exactly where expected. The target was in the room. All variables were aligned. They breached through the service entrance. In night vision corridors, weapons were raised. Choreographed silence. An employee froze, understanding that cooperation meant survival. The team secured the area without violence. On the 4th floor, at 2:27 in the morning, the first bodyguard died soundlessly, struck by suppressed rounds before his brain could process the threat. The second drew his weapon, and 2 seconds later he was dead, the muzzle flash briefly lighting the corridor. The door was locked, but locks only matter without keys. The specially cut key turned smoothly. Door opened. Abu Jihad woke to figures in darkness. He reached for his pistol. Commandos fired first, chest shots. He fell, conscious, fighting. More rounds followed, 70 rounds in total. Several were individually fatal. His wife survived, physically unharmed, forced to witness. Commandos restrained her without violence. They gathered documents, phone numbers, and operational plans. They withdrew with the same precision that brought them in. 12 minutes total. By the time Tunisian security realized what happened, commandos were racing toward extraction. Rubber boats were gone. The ship was steaming toward international waters. Dawn revealed a diplomatic catastrophe. A foreign military force had carried out an assassination on Tunisian soil, violating every principle of sovereignty that is supposed to govern relations between nations. Tunisia expelled Israeli diplomats and demanded United Nations condemnation. Security Council resolutions passed. Arab states raged about Zionist aggression. Israel said nothing. Officially, nothing had happened. Unofficially, everyone understood exactly what occurred and why denials did not matter. The message was the point. We can reach anyone, anywhere, regardless of borders or diplomatic niceties. Protection was an illusion. Distance was meaningless. There was no safe haven. Fatima arrived at 5:30 a.m., as always. The hotel was chaos. Police were everywhere, cordoning floors and interviewing terrified staff. She learned about the assassination from whispered conversations between frightened co-workers. A Palestinian leader had been murdered in his room. Foreign commandos had somehow penetrated hotel security. Bodies were left in corridors. Bloodstains were being scrubbed from carpets. She thought about the envelope in her locker, the key in her apron pocket, the instructions to enter room 412 at 6:45 a.m. Suddenly, those instructions gained a terrible weight they had not carried hours earlier. The harmless information she had provided for 3 years revealed itself as something else entirely. Schedules, patrols, room layouts, the mapping of vulnerabilities, all of it had been assembled into action. That morning, she cleaned other rooms, hands shaking as she changed linens and scrubbed bathrooms. She never entered room 412. Police had sealed it as a crime scene, but she understood with terrible clarity that she had been part of something whose scope exceeded her comprehension. The key had been meant for before the assault, not after. She was supposed to have opened that door hours earlier, providing access or intelligence or some other element she could not identify. The contacts who had paid her over 3 years vanished completely. Cash stopped, questions ceased. She was dropped as thoroughly as she had been recruited, left to process her role without guidance or explanation. The relationship she had thought transactional revealed itself as operational. She had never been a vendor, she had been an asset. Weeks of investigations followed. Theories multiplied about how commandos had penetrated Tunisian security so completely, compromised officials, advanced technology, insiders within the Palestinian leadership. Nobody suggested that a hotel maid with a specially cut key had been part of the machinery. The possibility was too ordinary, too mundane to merit investigation. That anonymity protected her from identification, but it offered no protection from knowledge. She knew what she had done. Even without understanding all the mechanisms, she knew information had enabled murder. She had accepted money without asking questions whose answers might have disturbed her conscience. She had sensed something beyond legitimate security research, but she had welcomed the payments enough to suppress suspicion. Some nights, she convinced herself she was a victim, manipulated by professionals. Other nights, she faced complicity. Small choices accumulated into vast consequences. Hotel Africa recovered. Room 412 was renovated and sanitized of history. New guests slept peacefully. The significance faded. Fatima cleaned that room many times afterward, with the same efficiency, each time remembering what had happened and what she had enabled. She retired in 2003. The secret remained intact. Her daughters never learned. She died in 2017. Her obituary mentioned only hotel service and devotion to family. Somewhere in Israeli files that may never be declassified, there is an entry for an asset whose codename remains unknown. An asset recruited outside the hotel. 3 years of observations. Key on an April morning. In the end, just a woman who cleaned rooms. The door was never truly locked because it had been prepared for exactly this, modified by hands. Fatima never saw, serving objectives she never understood. She thought she provided harmless information. She thought the key was just a tool. Everything was designed to make her think exactly that. Intelligence services call this leveraging civilian infrastructure. Stripped of jargon, it means finding ordinary people and transforming them into weapons without their knowledge. Abu Jihad's assassination succeeded because it weaponized normalcy. Hotel employees, maintenance workers, phone repairmen. People whose presence aroused no suspicion because they belonged. People providing access or information without understanding how small contributions assembled into operational capability. Perfect cover is not disguise. It is being exactly who you appear while serving purposes you do not comprehend. Fatima's tragedy was recognizing her role too late. By the time she understood, the operation was complete and her contacts had vanished. She was left alone with knowledge that could not be shared and guilt that could not be absolved. This isolation is common among unwitting assets discovering their true role. They cannot seek absolution because acknowledging participation means admitting events that demand accountability they will never receive. They cannot claim innocence because they suspected something, yet chose not to investigate. The broader question: how many ordinary actions serve extraordinary purposes we never recognize? How many times do we provide information, access, assistance without understanding complete context? Intelligence operations depend on this blindness. They function because most people do not imagine routine actions might contribute to violence far from their awareness. Small failures of suspicion accumulate into operational success, not because people are careless, but because suspecting everyone makes normal life impossible. We extend trust by default. Intelligence services exploit that requirement. Hotel Africa demonstrates this perfected. Every element appeared normal because every element was normal until assembled into a configuration enabling assassination. Locks worked as locks should. Maintenance was legitimate. Cleaning staff performed actual cleaning. Nothing unusual except purpose linking ordinary elements into an extraordinary outcome. This is the door that was never locked. Not because security failed, but because security was undermined from within. When locks are designed to grant access to those who should not have it, when key carriers do not know what keys unlock, when doors look closed while remaining perpetually open, security becomes theater. Fatima spent decades with this knowledge. The door she thought opened for cleaning had been prepared for execution. The key was cut with precision exceeding any hotel requirements. The 7 minutes were for purposes she was never meant to understand. She never learned what those 7 minutes were supposed to accomplish. Commandos completed their mission before her shift. Her role became irrelevant when timing changed. She was left holding a key to a door that no longer needed opening. Years later, journalists reconstructed the operation. They focused on commandos, the assault, and political implications. Fatima's name never appeared. Too mundane to investigate. Spectacular overshadowed ordinary, even though ordinary made spectacular possible. Invisibility is standard for assets like her. Contribution occurs in preparation, not execution. They provide intelligence enabling operations by people they will never meet. When operations succeed, credit flows to visible actors. Infrastructure remains unacknowledged, but operational success depends on infrastructure more than on tactical brilliance. Best commandos cannot execute without intelligence about target location, security procedures, and access points. That intelligence comes from people like Fatima, observing without understanding how observations assemble into targeting packages. Intelligence services maintain operational security by keeping assets ignorant. Fatima's value lay precisely in ordinary presence and lack of suspicion. If she understood her actual role, behavior might change, betraying recruitment to watching security services. So, she remained ignorant until the conclusion, then discarded, processing her role alone because acknowledging contribution requires admitting methods. Intelligence services keep classified. Her sacrifice was invisible twice, during the operation and in the aftermath. What invisible tasks have you performed without understanding their true purpose? What doors have you opened for people whose intentions you never questioned? What information have you shared without imagining how it might be assembled into something you would never willingly facilitate? These are not rhetorical questions. They are invitations to consider how ordinary actions can serve extraordinary purposes when orchestrated by people whose objectives exceed your awareness. To recognize that normalcy can disguise machinery operating according to logic you do not perceive. The door was never locked. It was prepared to open for those who possess the proper key. And sometimes the person carrying that key does not know what lies on the other side. Tell us in the comments what this story made you think about the ordinary actions that serve hidden purposes. If this investigation into the invisible architecture of intelligence operations showed you something you had not considered before, hit the like button and share this video. Subscribe to the channel because we are uncovering the operations that shaped history from the shadows, revealing the machinery that operates behind headlines and official narratives. Turn on notifications. The next buried operation is already waiting to be exposed.